Hello everyone. In this video, we will see the terminology related with child-centered education, and we also critically analyze these terminology in this regard. So, moving to the first terminology, the first terminology is First terminology is students' autonomy. Under the child-centered education, we encourage students to take control of their own learning, and this is the key aspect of child-centered education. But it is criticized by the critics, and the critic says that autonomy will lead to the incomplete learning or fragmented learning experiences, which is harmful for the students. Second one is constructivism. Second terminology is constructivism, and according to this theory, it is suggested that children actively construct their knowledge through their own experiences. But this one is also criticized, and critics says that through this approach, students did not have much time or much more capacity to understand all the subjects, and this will lead to the this will be improved or useful in the foundational knowledge, but at the higher level where we need to understand the concept in a deeper way, this cannot be approved. And third terminology is inquiry based learning. This approach says that students ask their question and explore their topic independently, but this one is also criticized, and the critic says that it is time consuming and it is not adequate to cover all the subject matters through the inquiry based learning, and it is too much time consuming. Next terminology has scaffoldings. Scaffoldings means when we gradually reduce the assistance to a particular students. Whenever the students get the competency in a particular content, we reduce the assistance, and this is called scaffoldings. So child-centered education support scaffoldings. According to the child-centered education, students get a chance to do their work by their own. So slightly we reduce the role of a teacher in order to understand a particular content. But this terminology is also criticized, and the critique says that it is challenging to maintain the balance of reducing the assistance. कब किसको assistance reduce करना है, it's hard to balance it, and some students might require more or less support than the others. And the fifth one is student-centered assessment. So child-centered education says that there must be a student-centered assessment, and student-centered assessment aligned with the child-centered education more prominently, and it reflects focus on the individual progress. But this is also criticized on the basis of that such assessment is hard to measure the standards benchmark, and preparing students for standardized test is hard also. So critique says that preparing the students for standardized test is not be easy in the student-centered assessment. Next, sixth is terminology है flexible curriculum. So according to child-centered education, of the flexible curriculum should be involved, and more often tailoring of the curriculum is done as per the need of the learners or the individuals. But this terminology is again criticized, and critics argue that it can be resource intensive or challenging to implement on a large scale. So curriculum is a wide concept, and it is implemented on a large geographical area, so it is hard to implement flexibility in the curriculum as per the needs or the resources of the learners. So this point, flexible curriculum, which is more prominently followed in the child-centered education, is criticized by the critique. And seventh terminology is the teacher as a facilitator. In this approach, we found that teacher as a guide. Teacher only providing a support to the students in the learning process, and the basic work should be done by the students by themselves in order to learn a thing. And this point is criticized on the basis of that shifting too much responsibility to the students on the students might reduce their progress, and some students may need more direct instruction rather than others. So there must be a variation between the students. So teacher as a facilitator, so role of a teacher as a facilitator is followed by the child centered education, but it is criticized that there is a variation in the students. Some weak students need more directions, and apart from that shifting of too much responsibility towards the students can be harmful. Moving to the next. Eighth terminology is holistic development. In child centered education, we focus on the holistic development of the students, in which the social, emotional, physical, mental, all the aspects are covered. Apart from the academics, all the aspects were taken in the child centered education, and holistic development is criticized on the basis of the question that whether this approach adequately prepares students for the demand of the real world or not. So a critique says that holistic development, which is focused by the child centered education, but in real, how much you are preparing your students for the real world problems is not measured in this. And second one is this resource allocation. Child-centered education focus on resource allocation of the students. Implementing child-centered education may require additional resources, and which can be challenges for underfunded educational systems, and critics may question the feasibility of this approach in resource constrained environments. So child-centered education focus on the resource allocation, and the institution or the school or the organization which provides the learning education to the students must provide additional resources while following the child-centered education. But if whatever to the organization which did not have the much funds is the first of its criticism, and second is that feasibility of this approach in resource constrained environment is questionable. If there is a resource constrained environment, the environment which does not have any much resources, how the student get education, the feasibility of this approach is limited on that condition. So these are the few terminologies related with the child-centered education. So all the terminology which is related with child-centered education is criticized by the critics in a very thoughtful way. But critical examination of these concepts or the terminologies can be made more proper when we follow a balanced approach, and balanced approach leads to the progressive development of the students. And in order to strike the right balance between the students' autonomy and essential curriculum, we have to implement this approach more effectively. That in that case only we can achieve the real aim of this child-centered education. So we will be more focused towards the development of the students or the learners. Moving to the end. To sum up, we can say that child-centered education follow many things. Child-centered education have a principle of learning by doing or learning by living. Learning by doing is an important aspect of this theory, and the term experiencing is more closely related with this theory, which increase the self-reflection of the students. And learning by doing is a progressive way of learning, especially for those who experiences in which they actively engage in making things or exploring the world. So the best way to enhance learning in the class is to connect the content to the life experience of the students by using the actual objects, or the living objects, or the non-living things in the local environment of a child, which leads to the proper
Please
implementation.
subscribe to Systematic Concepts channel and press the bell icon to get the notification of my video regularly. Thank you.